This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
You decided to upgrade your outdoor deck, so you ordered the essentials, a power washer, a set of patio chairs, and a shiny new grill. And you used your Bank of America customized Cash Rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential deck addition, a bird feeder. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Verstappen puts it on pole for the second race in a row, but he'll have Hamilton alongside him once again. This is the Checkered Flag Podcast. I'm Jenny Gow. Alongside me, we have Jolyon Palmer and Jack Nicholls. And Jack, it was a qualifying that went down to the wire, and Verstappen did it.
Again on the first run in the final part of qualifying, which is something we've seen quite often this season. Despite all the track evolution and all of that, in Q3, quite often the first run has been the one, and it was for Verstappen. Hamilton's second lap was messy. Was actually out-qualified by Valtteri Bottas, but Bottas with that three-place grid drop will start fifth on the grid. Good job from Norris. Perez a little off the pace, but kind of standard in that second Red Bull, although he was better last time out in France. It sets us up for another Verstappen versus Hamilton race where Verstappen's ahead and maybe Hamilton has the fastest car, although he didn't sound particularly positive after qualifying. Wonderful demonstration by Max Verstappen.
Jolyon, Max has always said, hasn't he, that if he had the fastest car, he would be the fastest driver, the best qualifier, the best racer there is. Are we starting to buy into the fact that actually he is a superb qualifier?
I never didn't buy into that. I mean, he's been killing his last two teammates, hasn't he? Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, he was qualifying ahead of Daniel Ricciardo as well. He's always been lightning fast in the machinery he's had when he's been in Formula One, basically. And now he's got probably the fastest car out there. He's delivering pole positions. So it's not really a massive surprise. Already for the last two seasons, we've known how good he is. But let's face it, Hamilton's had the better car at Mercedes, and Hamilton's never been under pressure over a season duration from Verstappen. The odd race here or there, we saw a glimpse of what he can do when the Red Bull's competitive in a Budapest, certainly Mexico, Brazil. But this time, the Red Bull car's quick everywhere, and so Verstappen is a threat everywhere. But still, it's Verstappen and Hamilton. You can never rule Hamilton out either.
It is, although Valtteri Bottas today did himself a world of favours by actually managing to qualify P2. Now, that all gets negated by the fact that he did this crazy spin in the pit lane yesterday, plus 3 places on the grid, so jettisons down to P5. But he had a good lap, didn't he, out there, better than Hamilton.
But that's sort of almost never been in doubt, has it? I think that's the thing with Bottas. Over one lap, we've seen a bajillion times he can match Hamilton, he can beat Hamilton, he can get pretty close to Hamilton. And yeah, good job today from Bottas. But it's races where he has struggled, and especially this year, to sort of bring the points home. And so starting fifth behind Norris and Perez, that is what is going to be interesting, I think. Come the Grand Prix tomorrow, that's where he's going to prove himself to Toto Wolff. If the decision has not already been made, if he can come through from fifth to finish third ahead of Perez and Norris, then that's when you've got a driver in that second Mercedes that you think, yeah, good. That's the kind of performance we need. If he stays in fifth, loses out to Gasly at the start and ends up sixth, that's when the question marks arise, I think.
So just to clarify, Verstappen, Bottas and Hamilton all qualifying on the medium tyres. So they'll start the race on the medium tyres because they qualified in Q2 on mediums and everybody else on the softs. Let's hear from the man who got pole position. He described it as simply lovely in the car after he'd done it. It is Max Verstappen.
Max, sensational effort. Was it ever in doubt? You never know, of course, what the rest is going to do. But from my side, I think that first lap in Q3 felt pretty good. I mean, around here, you don't have a lot of corners, but it's actually quite hard to nail the lap because of braking in up to turn 3. Then the crest you have, it's easy to lose a 10 if you make a tiny mistake, and the same into turn 4. But the lap was pretty good. I mean, I will never be fully happy, of course, with the lap because things can be always better, but it was good enough. And actually, the whole weekend, we have been quite competitive, and it was quite easy to set up the car. So that's always what you like.
You always look like you gel with a circuit, but particularly this one just looks like your playground. It looks like you're having so much fun out there.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I mean, of course, it's our home Grand Prix, but it's just when I started driving here in F1, it's just one of the tracks. Maybe because it's tiny, not many corners, but you can make a difference, which I like. And yeah, some tracks are pretty straightforward in how you take corners because it's only one line. Here it can be a little bit different.
You have the advantage going into the race tomorrow. Your championship rival starts alongside you on the front row. How tough a race do you foresee this being? Like
I think so far this season it has been. We can be ahead in qualifying, but I expect it to be again super close in the race. We know that they have a strong race car. They always seem pretty good on the tires, so yeah, if it is a little bit like France, I wouldn't mind. It's quite exciting for everyone at the end.
So that's Max Verstappen, who set the fastest lap. Jolien, any surprises by quite how fast he was out there? The difference almost 0.2 to Bottas?
Not really, because he had that gap in France. I think the Red Bull car is the better on the Saturday. And on the Sunday, it's super, super tight. Is Mercedes slightly the better car on a Sunday? Is that why we're seeing such brilliant racing? Because
the fastest car doesn't start at the front and drive off.
Exactly. and I actually thought, over lunch today, I was musing to myself.
Oh, okay. I'm interested in this. Inside Palmer's head. It's a new segment.
Yeah, and I was walking back from my lunch, and I thought, I don't know if I have the absolute buzz for qualifying that I had in last year.
Yeah.
Not to say I enjoy commentating on qualifying, it's always exciting. But last year it felt so much more defining. Whereas this year you do the qualifying, but then you're like, what does it even mean?
So
You've got the two on the front, but yeah, it's brilliant. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it's sort of like, it's basically the fact that qualifying is nowhere near as race defining as it has been. The last few years, you're like, right, this is such an important moment in the race weekend. But this year, heading into qualifying, and it's still good, and actually, I really enjoyed this one because the margins were so tight. It was quite unpredictable through the field, and we had some great standout performances. But generally, you get to a Saturday evening, and you still don't have a clue who's going to win the race on Sunday. Yeah. And you don't, we know who's going to be challenging, but you got no idea how it's going to unfold. And, it's sort of dampens the absolute magic of qualifying and how important that pole position lap is, but it heightens the whole experience of watching through the season, doesn't it?
I'm intrigued. What did you have for lunch? Such deep thinking.
A tuna melt. A tuna melt. I got my Amigas in. It's good as brain food.
Certainly is. Well, let's hear from the man who will start the race in second place, even though he qualified in third. It is Lewis Hamilton.
Hey Lewis, it's not often we see you make a mistake in quali, but when it is, it's when you're having to wring every last drop out of it. How close are things out there?
Yeah, I mean, we were flat out, and I don't know why. I just didn't have a very good qualifying session. The car felt great in P3, and it just didn't feel the same in qualifying. So I'm kind of baffled by that, and naturally, just not the perfect lap at the end, but it didn't make no difference. I was still down. So, I just hope that tomorrow is a better day.
Front row start for you, regardless. Do you have the pace to take it to max in the race tomorrow? What's the data telling you about your long runs?
Yesterday it was saying that we're 2.5 tenths down.
8.
Yeah, so I hope that's not the case tomorrow, but because I do think we've slightly improved our car, but they've just had the pace all weekend, and I think it's mostly on the straights. Now we're not using DRS in the race. Their wings just backing off more and more efficient, or they've got more power. One of the two. But I'll still be giving everything tomorrow.
Are you going to have to rely on strategy to take it to them if the ultimate out-and-out pace is, as you say, those couple of tenths off?
I really don't know. I'll be guessing. And so everything needs to be on point tomorrow. Me, the car, and the team with strategy. So, and we have to be so on point, and to the point that almost they are not also all on point in order to be able to win. But we shall see.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So not the ideal lap from Lewis Hamilton, but Jack, just talk to me about his outlap, because it was most curious.
Yeah, and it was... So basically, he was getting to the back of the queue and everybody, winding up to start their final laps. And he was last, one of the last out of the pits because he'd done the 3 laps in the 3 runs in the final part of qualifying. So as a result, he was last out of the garage once he switched it around. Came up to the back of the queue, and it seems like he just thought, nah, I'm not having this. I'm not going to drive at 20 miles an hour, lose all my temperatures. So he drove past everyone. The kind of thing that actually gave a bit of stick to for Nikita Mazepin in Bahrain for going against that gentleman's code of just wait your turn. He ploughed through ahead of everyone, but then was a quarter of a second down after the first corner. So didn't work out in the end, but it just showed a bit of a, I don't know, desperation is maybe a bit too dramatic a word, but that kind of vibe.
The way he came through the pack, I didn't expect him to improve his lap time. With that, driving that outlap, passing about 5 cars, driving offline into the penultimate corner, basically, doing a Nikita Mazepin from Bahrain, cutting everyone up and then waiting your turn in front of them all, or in front of most of them, apart from the Ferrari that was ahead. It was a really unlike Lewis Hamilton thing, and it was to try and keep the temperature in the tyres. He did 3 runs. That was why he was late out. He wanted to keep the temperature in the tyres, but no one else is passing by the time you get to the last few corners. At that point, you sort of wait your turn. Lewis didn't today, and everyone else got laps in, and he seemed to be the one that lost out the most, really. The whole thing with doing 3 sets of tyres in Q3 is unusual as well. The principle of it makes sense. You've got 3 sets of tyres, chuck them all at this session and see if you can beat Verstappen. But given they did something unusual, to actually be out-qualified by Bottas, who did 2 sets of tyres, be nowhere near Verstappen, is a poor outcome, and it suggests that it just didn't work out for them today. Maybe the convention was the best thing, and a straight fight might have left him in better stead, although he probably wouldn't have beaten Verstappen either way.
Do you feel sometimes watching Mercedes a little bit this year that sometimes they're like clutching at straws, they're just grasping for something and they're not quite sure what it is to give them an advantage over Red Bull, who have turned into such a good adversary for them? You're
talking about flexi wings
and pit stops and stuff,
and pit stops and all the tech stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of things. They're trying out things like, Bottas' claim of yesterday, we've been losing time in the pits when we're getting away, so we tried second. And just, there's a lot of accusations, there's a lot of kind of mudslinging, but it also seems like Mercedes don't quite know how to beat Red Bull at the moment. They know they need to, but are they a bit lost? Is it fair to say that of Mercedes?
I think it's unfair to say that in terms of are they a bit lost. They easily could have won the last race. They got actually done in the strategy stakes by Red Bull. I think their race strategy has let them down in the last few races. They need to work on that as the big thing. Qualifying pace, not their forte, but they know that. It's qualifying still on the front row is important. Actually, Bottas qualifying second, important, because he starts 5th and he's still in the mix tomorrow with his medium tyre choice. So they actually have done fine today, bearing in mind they're probably carrying a deficit on a Saturday. Strategy is where we've seen so many races won or lost this year. They did some good strategies early on. In Bahrain, it worked. Hamilton drove like a magician on the tyres and kept them alive. Barcelona, it looked pretty good as he came through. But the last few races, I think they've dropped the ball in that department. That's where they've lost a lot of points.
But the strange part with Paul Ricard was that they didn't, it's going to sound a bit random, but they kind of didn't make the wrong decision based on the data they had in terms of the difference that they thought the undercut was. They should have pitted Hamilton when he did, and then he would have come out in front and everything would have been fine. Obviously, it wasn't that, but it was. But like you say, it like with all strategy, you win some, you lose some. And I just wonder whether you put Mercedes under sort of an extra microscope because they have been the quickest car for so long, and Red Bull can kind of give something a go. And if it doesn't work, you go, oh, well, like Barcelona, you kind of go, great job from Mercedes, but you also say, well, they had the quickest car, so there's nothing Red Bull could have done in the strategy there. So you kind of win some, lose some, I think.
Yeah, but France, I mean, they they got it wrong.
Agreed.
They were undercut.
Yeah.
Simple. They pitted Bottas, I think, too early. They could have just covered Verstappen by pitting the next lap, but they were exposed to the undercut. Yeah, the undercut was bigger than they thought, but then they thought wrong.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, it was, according to their data, the right thing to do. Their data was just wrong then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So either way, it probably cost them the win that moment. I know there was a strategy later on with the second pit stop, but it doesn't matter about the second pit stop if Hamilton's winning. Then Hamilton's in control, and even if Verstappen pits, he's further back when he takes his pit stop. Maybe Hamilton could have done the pit stop. Ifs, buts and maybes. That was the key moment, and they got it wrong. Baku, they got jumped by both Red Bulls in the pit stop phase as well. Monaco, their strategy was really poor with Hamilton to get stuck snookered down behind Pierre Gasly.
I forgot about Monaco, actually, yeah.
So it's been 3 in a row that have been really poor on Hamilton's side. So that's where it was so many times we've seen it, the race won or lost, and they need to do a good job tomorrow.
Is it fair to say then that Mercedes' domination that we've seen for the last 7 years is a thing of the past? Have we got to that point too soon? We're only into round 8. We haven't had the race yet.
Verstappen's leading the championship. Red Bull are leading the Constructors' Championship. Domination's absolutely gone. They can still win and stuff, but it's nowhere near the domination of the past.
Yeah, but when's the domination then?
Well, what do you class as domination? Is that what you're saying?
Well, exactly. If they still win the title this year,
they've dominated teams, for 8 years.
Then this is in the period of domination, but it's a tougher year.
Yeah.
But they haven't clearly dominated this year. They didn't dominate in 2018.
No.
Did they dominate in 2019? In the standings, yeah, but Ferrari went on a real run at the end of that season as well. 17 Vettel should have won.
So domination stops when they lose a championship?
I think when we talk about the era of domination, we talk about Ferrari dominating in the Schumacher years, but actually 2003 was a super, super tight season for Michael Schumacher.
2000, I think, went down to the wire with Häkkinen.
Yeah, but yeah, we talk about them dominating. So if Hamilton and Mercedes still win, and they win next year, it's all just one of the dominating years, isn't it? It's going to be brushed under the carpet.
Fascinating. Okay, somebody else who had a really good day, a really good performance was Lando Norris. Let's hear from the McLaren man.
What a turnaround from this morning to this afternoon. I know if you hadn't had your time deleted, you would have been way up here, but still, could you have expected to be as high up as you are? Because when we take everything into consideration, it's a P3.
Yeah, I think we were expecting to be good and strong because we have been relatively decent all weekend, and Daniel was very fast yesterday in P2 and stuff, so the car's been good, and we know we always take a bit of a step into Q3. To be ahead of one of the Red Bulls, I would say not as expected, because they've been very fast from like lap 1 here and miles ahead of us all weekend. So I mean, it's a similar story to Monaco, for example, or Baku, or some tracks where we always look way behind Mercedes and Red Bull, but as the fuel loads come down, I think everyone's car gets a little bit more equal and more competitive, and then sometimes it can surprise you a little bit, and we can be ahead of them. So it's nice to know, like, under a tenth off both Mercedes, which is a bit of a shock, because I think I can just state the fact that they have more grip than us, and I'm not that far behind. So it's weird to think of, but it's a good position, so I'm happy.
When you fill the car back up with fuel, though, can you hold that position? Can you take it to the guys ahead of you, or is it about keeping the others in your mirrors?
It's a similar story to a couple of years ago when I was into P2 or P3 and we were mixed with the Red Bulls and the Mercedes guys. And if there's an opportunity, 100% I'll go for it. But I still need to pick and choose my competitors and my races carefully and not kill the tyres and things like that. So we'll wait and see. I think on paper on Friday they were quite a bit quicker than us, both the Mercedes and of Red Bull. So I'm not expecting to be super competitive against them, but we still have a good chance to beat everyone else behind, so that's the plan.
Sensational job.
Cheers.
Lando Norris, impressive around Austria, but it's not just here, is it, Jolien? He's having a good season so far. He's scored points in every race, the only man to do that.
Top performer this year, Lando. Relentlessly quick, making no mistakes, really. Track limits in Imola. Can't really think of another one.
No.
Destroying Daniel Ricciardo, making his life so tough at that team. And Ricciardo, we know how good he is. Out in Q2, disappointing. Particularly when Norris qualifies fourth, which is a third position start.
But yet, I was still a tiny bit disappointed with Norris. Because
that he didn't beat Hamilton to the front row.
Yeah, because there was something in me, and I think in all of us, that thought Norris is going to do something like mad today, and because he looked like he might beat Hamilton and qualify second on the grid, genuinely. And then when he doesn't, it's kind of a bit of a shame or a bit of a disappointment. But he's still done an absolutely superb job, and we have no right to be disappointed. But there's just that, I thought it was going to be like a joke of a performance, whereas it was actually just really incredibly, exceptionally good.
Like when Swindon Town take Manchester City to penalties in a cup tie, but then just lose it, and you're like, "Oh, that was rubbish." But they've done so well. Yeah, and they still come up short. Lando's doing such a good job. He's got it. I think he's going to get podium tomorrow. He's up against it because he's got Perez starting 4th in the Red Bull, Bottas on the medium tyre starting 5th. But I've just had a feeling about Norris this weekend. He was on the podium here last year, which has probably set that for me. But it's one of those ones where he's just really dialed in, looking good, making no mistakes. And, he just keeps scoring good points this season as well.
Is it easier to look at Norris and say he is having a standout season because his teammate Ricciardo isn't? And there's such a big gap between the two at the moment, seemingly. I mean, Ricciardo will start the race P13 and he's struggling in that car. And you see flashes where it comes together, but genuinely, Norris is outshining him, and therefore our expectations of Norris are greater, but he's just outperforming his teammate really well.
But that's all you can compare it with anyone, isn't it? If Hamilton got in the Williams and was suddenly still fighting for pole, then we'd all think Russell was bad. But Russell's done such a good job in that car. He's beaten his teammate every time, and today did a great job to be 11th. So we think he's, a future champion. It's all about beating your teammate, showing well. When your teammate is a 7-time Grand Prix winner, Daniel Ricciardo, who's shone at Red Bull, shone at Renault, goes to McLaren, may yet shine in the future, but he's having he's having the worst run of his career in borderline any motorsport right now, Daniel Ricciardo, with the odd glimpse of better performance, but overall such a tough time. You have to say that if Lando was around that pace, McLaren are not great, but because Lando's performing so well, it makes Ricciardo look bad. It makes Norris look sensational.
And then you end up in that comparison of Norris and Sainz looked pretty similar at McLaren for the last couple of years, and then Sainz is getting pretty beaten by Leclerc, even though he's doing a decent job, and you end up in that whole him v him, and it goes on forever.
I think Norris has picked this game up a lot this year.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with him. And you know what? I think he's cut out some of his trying to be funny, memey, jokey guy.
Just look at his press conferences. He's a totally different person. You're
Friday
absolutely
then.
right.
It's Saturday, Sunday. What?
What's that all about?
Don't get that anymore.
No.
Please never do that again, Jack.
You know what?
I won't, and then my game will pick up.
Like Norris,
yeah,
exactly.
Maybe this is the time where you can pick up as well. Take a leaf out of Lando's book.
F1 at bbc.co.uk if you want to tell me to do that.
Inbox is full already.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I just think he's taking himself a bit more seriously. Stop sort of not trying to be a meme lord anymore and trying to be like a very good Formula One driver. And he's always had so much talent.
Yeah.
I saw him coming through the ranks closely, and he was just sensational coming through. And now I think he's proving his worth.
In an unfair question to ask you, both of you, who is the better / faster driver out of Norris and Russell?
I think that's really... Well, it's impossible to answer, isn't it, really? I would probably go Russell would be my instinct, mainly because of Norris got a lot of backing, and not that Russell didn't, but a lot of testing, a lot of private testing for Norris. And I think for that reason, I think I would give Russell the edge, but it's a really difficult one to say, really. Norris or Russell?
Pears or tomatoes? Both great fruit.
Different.
You can't compare them.
Very different.
Yeah, well, I know, but that's why I'm... How do you compare a guy in a Williams who's never had a Q3 for the team or scored a point for the team, and a guy in a McLaren who's fighting for P3 in the championship?
So here's a question. Mercedes, Bottas or Russell, should Mercedes be considering like other drivers? Should they be thinking, well, we should sign Norris because he's great, or we should sign,
Yeah, if I was Mercedes, I'd be... Everyone should be looking at Norris.
It's narrow-minded to just go, Russell
Norris is
or
looking
Bottas.
like one of the best drivers on the grid this season. So
yeah, but they've
it
poured a
basically
load
is.
of investment, haven't they, into Russell as a Mercedes driver program and a young driver program. You invest in your future.
Yeah, and also Norris is contracted for another year to McLaren, so he's not going to be going anywhere. And McLaren have done a great bit of business tying him down for another year when everyone would be trying to snap him up. Red Bull going for Norris, and Norris and Verstappen line up punchy for Red Bull. So and also Russell's shown what he can do in a Mercedes and is pretty good. So and he is their star of the future. But I think there's too much all the time focus on young driver programs. Who's the next Red Bull guy to come through? Forget the next Red Bull guy to come through. Put Sergio Perez in the car.
Yeah, and it's the best they've had.
It's the best one they've had for a long time. Yeah. Forget your Albons or your Gasly's or, we've got to get Tsunoda fast track through. You don't have to get Tsunoda fast track through. Put in the next best guy that's out there, and if it's Perez in a Force India or Racing Point, whack him in. And he's not on Verstappen's level, but he's doing a much better job than the protégés did. And I think that's the case across the board. If the protégé is not absolutely showing that they deserve a place.
Well, just to run down how the grid will look, it'll be Verstappen from Hamilton, Norris, Perez, Bottas, Gasly, Leclerc, Tsunoda, although he is being investigated for blocking Bottas, Alonso, Stroll, and then the first man who can take a free tyre choice will be the man we just spoke about, George Russell in the Williams, qualifying P11, equaling his best ever qualifying result in a Williams. Let's hear from him.
George, another incredible qualifying performance, 0.08 of a second off what you predicted at the start of the weekend, which would be a Q3 appearance.
Yeah, I mean, so close yet so far. Obviously really pleased to be in this position. The team did a really great job. The car's feeling good. And I think we've been learning a lot about the car recently. We've been going in a slightly different direction, putting more emphasis for our Sunday. Let's see how it pans out tomorrow. I mean, it felt very good in the high fuel yesterday. Got to look forward. I'm looking forward to getting started that top 10. I'm not looking behind me in my mirrors. I just want to go forward now, and let's see if we can do that.
I'm not sure, because we've not seen you without a mask for like 18 months, whether this is how much you normally smile after qualifying,
Always.
or if this is a new thing with this confidence in this car, man.
Yeah, definitely. I think all of us, we're feeling confident that we can go out there and deliver the maximum, which is so satisfying, even though it's only P11, knowing that we've done the best job possible and we've out-qualified McLarens, Ferraris, Aston Martins, is massive for an Alpine as well. It's massive for us. So, really pleased with how everything's going, and it is satisfying when it's like this.
So George Russell starting P11, great job from him and the Williams team to get him up there. And he starts with a free choice of tyre. And Jack, when it comes to that position, starting P11, he could really do something from there. He could get his first Williams points. Don't say it too loudly.
Yeah, well, it just depends on the race pace, doesn't it? Because he's pulled out some good qualifying laps in the past, Russell, but ultimately the Williams isn't really, really very fast. So I think it's still...
Last time out, we're taking encouragement, aren't we, from last time out in France, where he managed to finish P12 and 20 cars crossed the line.
Yeah, I think he benefited in Paul Ricard, and not to do anything against him, but he benefited in Paul Ricard because others ran into sort of big trouble, like the Ferraris ran into big trouble, Alfa Romeo's ran into big trouble. If tomorrow is a bit more of a standard one-stopper, it'll be a bit more of a challenge, but there's always the chance for those first points. So he's got a shot. Williams do look quick over one lap. Latifi was quite impressive as well until he got traffic at the end of his flying lap. So we'll see. He's in the mix for points at least, depending on what happens in the race.
What will he choose, do you reckon? Will he go long? And can the guys at the front on the mediums do something clever as well?
As far as I can see, it's just going to be a one-stopper for everybody, I think. And the medium runners will go onto the hards after they've done their run, or onto the softs, depending how long they go. And then the same for those starting on the softs will try and go onto the mediums for the end of the Grand Prix. It looks like a fairly standard race from the last few years, although we thought that going into Paul Ricard.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same conversation, basically, right now. Medium to hard, one stopper for the front two anyway. They'll either try and undercut with Hamilton, or Verstappen will protect against the undercut, and Hamilton will go long and attack at the end. That's the way that strategy always goes this season, assuming that they're running together still and Verstappen's not broken clear or Hamilton's not broken clear.
Well, that's the thing. The second row is Norris and Perez, isn't it? Both on the softs to start. So Are they going to be involved in that front row fight, or are Verstappen and Hamilton just gone and they're doing their own thing?
I think Verstappen and Hamilton would be too fast early on for those two, even though they're on the soft tyres. So I think they're doing their own thing. I don't think that Norris and Perez are going to be particular danger for the top two. So I think it'll be the classic. Having said all that, it's going to be a deluge tomorrow. My weather predictor is saying chance of showers reasonably high.
Really?
Wow, and if you say it, must be true. Must be right. So, a rainy race would definitely throw a spanner in the works, I fear, for some, although we know that the two guys who are the best in the rain start at the front, Verstappen and Hamilton. Best in the rain, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, what will happen? That's the question. 71 laps around the Red Bull Ring. Verstappen in pole position. Hamilton alongside him. Should be a thriller, and coverage gets underway at 2 o'clock. Make sure you join us. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.
You're ready to get back into yoga, so you ordered the essentials, a non-slip mat, yoga blocks to keep balance, and an exercise ball. And you used your Bank of America customized cash rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential yoga gear, noise-canceling headphones. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation.